Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Whiskey Jedi podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Me at the moment, but us here very, very soon. I'm back. I haven't done an episode in a few weeks. I know I've been off, but things have been a little crazy here in the main life with daily jobs, stuff like that. And it's strange because I'm doing an episode when time is typically the craziest with Thanksgiving and everything going around. Hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Speaking of Thanksgiving today, as the thumbnail says, as the title of the video says, we are giving thanks to our favorite Star Wars moments. We're kind of just going to have an open discussion about some of our favorite Star Wars moments in the entire franchise. That includes film, that includes television, maybe even sprinkle in some novels or comics if we're into those. And so I'm very excited to do some Star Wars talk today, as usual. And today with me, I not only have my typical partner in crime being Whiskey, because that is the second half of the show. Which I'll be kind of talking about Monkey Shoulder here in just a little bit. But I'm also going to have a guest with me, Mr. Gio Ramos, a fellow podcaster of mine, a buddy of mine. He's a part of Pocketflix Movies with me. He's an OG member just like I am, and he's going to be joining me. So I'm super, super excited. And it's going to be a cool 45 minutes so on the show to talk some Star Wars. If you've never joined the show before, thank you so much for hanging out and coming in and stopping by. The idea behind the show is to hang out, talk Star Wars, and drink whiskey. I break down some whiskeys. I'll give some background on whiskeys. I'll go back to the shelf every once in a while, which I have done Monkey Shoulder on the show before. It was actually my second ever episode, so it was a long time ago. But I'm bringing it back, and I'll give a little breakdown in history of it, just slightly, and then that'll be sprinkled in throughout the show. It won't be in a clump at the beginning or the middle or the end. I'll kind of stop here and there and give a nice little breakdown, as well as my guest. He has a whiskey with him as well, and then he'll be recommending one to me at the end of the show. Speaking of Rex, if you guys have any recommendations for me on whiskeys, just throw them in the chat. I collect them as I hear them. That way I know what to get for the show, because eventually I will run out of my bottles. I have a good amount here, but doing so many episodes, and if it is a weekly show, I will eventually run out of tasters, if you will. And so just keep throwing the recommendations at me. It can be in whatever, it can be any type, rye, bourbon, scotch, which is what I have here today. Throw them at me. And so I'm happy to try any whiskey and give it a try on the own channel. So with all that said, let's just get right into it. Let's get to some Star Wars talk. Let me bring in my guest here, and that is Mr. Gio, the DC enthusiast Ramos. How you doing, man? Welcome.
Hey, I am good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of this show that you do, man.
Thank you.
I love it. I've followed along during your Mandalorian watch-alongs, and you asked me this morning to come out.
Yeah, a little late notice.
Hey, I wasn't going to turn down an opportunity to talk Star Wars with you, so thank you again.
Of course. And I didn't mention this up top, but with my guests, I typically, Gio's only my second official guest on the show. I'm letting my guests choose the topic of the show. And so Gio picked favorite Star Wars moments. And so that's what we're going to be discussing here today. But before we get to Star Wars, what are you drinking? What do you got with you today?
So I have some Johnny Walker Green Label.
Okay.
Heavy stuff. But you know what? 'Tis the season. It is holiday season. And I am a grown man now. I am not 21 anymore, so I drink I sip now. And
it's the old sip, not the shot, the sip. Yeah, I'm with you. I got the Monkey Shoulder, nice little scotch here. I mean, and like I said, it's something I've had before, but I haven't had in a while, so I had to bring it back. Very, very excited. But before we break down any kind of whiskey or I get into the background of Monkey Shoulder, let's just get into Star Wars talk. Let's get into it, because there's a lot that we're going to talk about on this show. And like I mentioned, it's kind of an open discussion, and I'm going to let Gio bring up the first moment that we're going to discuss here. And it doesn't have to be in a particular order from, first to last or anything like that. It's just a moment we're going to discuss because there's going to be a lot of them. So, Gio, floor is yours. What do you got?
All right. So this first one is a little out of left field. I don't know if you'll be expecting this, but I'm going to bring it up anyway because it's just a moment that stands out. It's very personal. We all experienced it at Pocketflix Movies. And so this moment, I'm going to take you back to 2015. Monday Night Football, it's halftime. And the Force Awakens trailer, the full official trailer, dropped. in the middle of the halftime show. The moment, though, is when the trailer ended and it said tickets now on sale.
Oh God.
I mean, peak height as far as like Star Wars, maybe
I'd say
1999.
ever, dude. I'd say ever for those tickets. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, no, totally. So we were just blown away from the trailer. Tickets go on sale, and I believe you were already online, right? You just refreshed and
yeah.
like what did the site crash? Like
Yeah,
tickets.
so for those watching, Gio, myself, the Apocalypse crew, so Keith, Jacob, and Brian, and then a number of our friends and a number of others, all of the big blockbusters that come out, whether it's Star Wars, Marvel, it can be just a big movie in general. There's typically somewhere around 15 to 20 of us that go to a movie together.
Yeah.
For the Last Jedi or Rogue One or the other, we had around 28 that went together, and I'm in charge of getting the tickets.
Yes, sir.
And so, and that's on me because I decide to do that because I want to make sure that we get the tickets. I don't want to leave it up to someone else. But as you know, what happens when all of this goes crazy? Sites crash, things don't work. If I'm not mistaken, we saw The Force Awakens did we see it at IMAX? We saw it at IMAX, right?
Yes. Yes, we
Okay,
did.
so for the IMAX theater here in our local area, there's only one theater with one screen. Like, just imagine the process that I had to go through with thousands of people in the area trying to get a ticket to this movie theater.
On opening night.
On opening night, and the second the trailer drops, like you said, it says tickets now on sale, and then it's just a sprint to the finish line to see who is able to get tickets. And I was probably dealing with it for like an hour and a half, trying to get tickets, calling, constant refreshing, 2 or 3 electronics trying to get tickets. That is definitely not something I expected to talk about today, but it's it is a brilliant thing to talk about when we talk about Star Wars moments.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, it's just one of those moments that, you know, it's outside the movies for sure, but it's a moment that you just never forget. That time in 2015, the hype is real. It's madness. Your anxiety level is through the roof because it's like, I want tickets. Will I get them? And you came through and you delivered, man. So it's a moment I'll never forget.
No, and then it kind of played into the fact that we were getting Star Wars again, and then the whole just journey to The Force Awakens and watching that movie. And
yep.
I literally just put it up on Twitter today. There was, it was one of those viral things going around, like retweet and say your personal thing or whatever. And it said, what was the one movie that you saw in theaters the most? Mine was The Force Awakens. I saw it 10 times in theaters. Like it's just weird how, and I think that was in October of that year. And so there was a 3 months of just anticipation and knowing that we had tickets to opening night of the return of Star Wars.
Yeah. It was the last time that we were going to go without Star Wars for a while because, you know, Disney, we were going to get wave after wave of endless content. And the build up to that was just, I don't think it'll ever happen again.
I agree with you. It doesn't matter how big the movie. I mean, we saw since then the biggest movie to come out was Endgame, and it was close, but it wasn't near what Force Awakens did. You know, sites were crashing and stuff like that, but at this point, people knew how to get around it and deal with it. And obviously, there's more theaters playing it after what happened with The Force Awakens. Yeah, what a moment. What a moment. Goodness.
Yes,
that's a great way to start. That's a great way to start. I went in a different direction. I went with a movie moment here. One that I'm super, super excited to talk about. And Gio, can you hear me? Oh no. Might have lost him. Maybe, possibly. Who knows? I'll do this. I'll kick him out just to make sure. And I'll see when he comes back with I see the screen pop back up. My moment that I'm going to talk about here is one that I've talked about on the channel before. Yes, Reef Ton, it has happened before and it will happen again. I agree with you. The moment that I want to talk about is from The Empire Strikes Back, my all-time favorite movie. And it's a moment I've talked about on the channel before. I actually did an entire episode just on this entire moment in The Empire Strikes Back, and that is the do or do not scene from The Empire Strikes Back between Yoda and Luke. It's a scene that plays into a lot of parts in daily life, not just in Star Wars, because of the meaning and the theme behind the dialogue and just the entire moment and sequence that happens between Yoda, Luke, obviously the X-Wing, and the fact that Luke essentially is giving up and saying, you're asking for the impossible. You're asking for me to do something that physically isn't possible. And then, little Yoda, who at this point we had no idea what he was capable of, what he could do, what Jedi could really do at this point. Because remember, going back to the original trilogy, we saw what they were able to do with lightsabers in A New Hope. They can kind of move things around a little bit. But this was like the first time we legitimately saw a Jedi / character use Force abilities like we know today. He had lifted the X-Wing out of the swamp. After Luke kind of went on the rant of like, oh, you're asking for the impossible, and it's the do or do not, there is no try situation. And again, I did an entire episode on this sequence, and I really do love the moment between the characters, because as you're watching it as a viewer, we're kind of looking at it through Luke's eyes, right? Like Luke is the character we're kind of seeing everything through at this moment. And to us, not ever seeing something like that on screen, and I never got to see the movie in theaters. Well, I did, but much later on in my lifetime. It came out way before I was alive. But at this point, we had never seen something like this in movies before. And so what's going to happen? Luke seems to think that he's defeated a little bit. And I made it the analogies and the comparisons to sports. I don't believe it. That's why you fail so powerful. Yeah. I made the sports analogy because in sports, you have to be confident in yourself at all times, right? You have to believe in yourself, even the impossible, because if you're not, you're going to fail. You're not going to be successful, whether it's in the moment, in a game, in a season, in your life, whatever it is. And this relates to all life as well. And so while it is a Star Wars moment and we're talking about the Force and we're talking about, things that are in a galaxy far, far away, if you will, it relates to everything in life. If you kind of just find these, these little niches and these little connections between that moment and things that happen in your daily life. Like it can connect to something at work. It can connect to something with your friends. It can connect to something that's totally random if you kind of just think about the entire sequence that happens. And so it is by far not just my favorite moment in Star Wars, but also my favorite scene, my favorite dialogue, whatever it is. It's got all my favorites check marked there. And so that is definitely the one that I want to bring up first. And he is back. Let me go and bring him in. Hey, internet happens. Internet happens.
Back from the gulag. Sorry, guys.
You're good. Internet happens. You're good. I don't know if you heard me, but I brought up the scene between Yoda and Luke in The Empire Strikes Back. The do or do not, there is no try.
Great moment, man.
Yeah, and I kind of talked about the little bit, how it kind of connects with the themes in life, and you can kind of bring it into anything that happens in your life. And I kind of went on while you were gone, I was talking about it. So what are you thinking about the scene between Yoda and Luke? Not just the dialogue, but obviously, Luke saying you're asking for the impossible, him picking up the X-Wing, the whole 9 yards.
I mean, it's no shortage of life lessons, honestly. I mean, there are so many great quotes from Yoda that only someone as old and wise as him would, say. And he just shows a lot of patience, which is a virtue. You have to have that. So I think just some of the moments between them, or a lot of the moments between them, are just so rich, and so intellectual. It really is the prime example of student teacher, master apprentice, as far as movies go. I mean, you'd be pressed to name a better one in Hollywood movies.
I agree. And I had mentioned when I was talking that, not just in Star Wars, but in film, this was like the first time that we had ever seen something like this, right? You know,
Mhm.
in A New Hope, we had seen the Force used, right? They're deflecting stuff with their lightsabers and they're talking to each other and stuff like that. But Yoda physically picks up a ship that weighs thousands of pounds just by focusing and using this ability called the Force. And then
Mhm.
obviously, when we go to real life with film, a creation of this had never been possible before. So we're literally seeing in multiple ways the impossible made possible,
Yeah.
which is a huge factor.
No, totally. And I think it's the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, in A New Hope, we didn't see the Force be used to that extent, like where you're
Mm,
actually seeing something massive, being lifted up. I mean, in A
yep.
New Hope, he says use the Force and he's able to, shoot, blind shot into the
Yeah.
Death Star or something like that, or wave his hand. But this is actually lifting something that weighs 100,000 times more heavier than Yoda.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy, dude. First time watching it.
Definitely agree.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, Gio, what's next on your list?
Okay, well, guys, again, we're gonna be going back and forth all over the saga and this and that. We might touch on real life, who knows? So this next one, look, IG-11 and Mandalorian is one of those just incredible, and I'll tell you why it's incredible. Okay, so the moment that I chose was him just riding through town on a speeder, going boom, 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 and just it's just he's just unleashing, everything. It's just here's a guy who, his at first you met him, he was a threat, and now he's all about being a caretaker, right? Being caring and giving. So here's why it's incredible. For myself, okay, Star Wars movies, I know I'm gonna get a droid. The droid's gonna be probably funny. It's gonna be likable, and then something will happen to where it'll die and you'll feel sad. I was worried about that as with IG-11. I don't want this trope, to continue in Star Wars, and it didn't. Like this was his whole arc was so well done. From the first time you see him to when he makes a sacrifice and saves everyone. Like, wow, like way to avoid a trope, way to give us a character that we didn't think we would care about as much, and but we did. And credit to Favreau, credit to Taika, and to Mr. Dave Filoni.
Yeah, it's that character, and it's funny because when we were watching Mando season 1 for the first time, um, we saw him die in the first episode,
Mhm.
and then we were like, well, that was a lot of hype for a character that we're only going to see for one time.
Right.
And we were always open to the possibility of seeing him return. But then when he did return and they took the storyline they did where Queel rebuilt him, he became this more of a protective nurse droid. And then
Mhm.
he has that moment where he's protecting the child and he just goes an absolute wreck shop on Navarro against all these stormtroopers. It
Yeah.
is a really cool moment. And it's not like this moment where in a lot of Star Wars, a lot of the good moments are very not very serious, but they're serious to the movie and the plot, right? It could be Vader saying, "No, I am your father," or like the one I just talked about with Yoda and Luke, or Qui-Gon's death, or something like that, right? Those are all kind of serious moments. This is a very playful, fun adventure moment that has
Yes.
a massive impact on fans because the character's so well crafted and so well done from a storytelling standpoint, a visual standpoint, and then obviously a performance standpoint from Taika as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean anything Mando, anything IG-11, I'm totally in for.
And again, for myself, it avoided what I feared to be a trope, to where, whether it's BB-8, C-3PO, the droid from Rogue One, like I was like, oh well, here comes another droid, but no, they nailed it, and I'm
Yeah,
all for it. I'm bring on more droids, please.
yeah, I'm with you. If they do droids like that, and I there's a droid in. Were you a fan of? Did you ever finish Rebels by chance?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But is there a droid you were going to talk about?
Well, I was just going to mention quickly because it's kind of a transition into mine. But Chopper from Rebels is totally
Chopper.
different than the typical droid.
Yeah,
Like
Chopper.
totally different from a typical droid. I'm not going to talk about Chopper, but I do want to talk about Rebels because the
Okay.
one thing that or not the one thing. There's multiple aspects in animation that I want to talk about, but the one that I want to talk about first is the death of Kanan Jarrus. The death of Kanan Jarrus in season 4 of Rebels is incredible from a Star Wars standpoint in general. Not just animation. It in all of Star Wars, it's absolutely brilliant. I will never argue with someone who says Kanan is one of my favorite characters of all time because his arc was truly like a real life Jedi arc, right? The guy
Sure.
went through some turbulent trials, right?
Mhm.
He's on the run as a teenager when Order 66 happens. Then he's thrusted into this life where he kind of becomes the pseudo master to Ezra. He
Yep.
loses his visual or his vision, excuse me,
Mhm.
to Maul, which is a big aspect of this moment because in this moment, he doesn't just save the Rebels crew. He doesn't just save his life love of Hera and his Padawan and Ezra, but he, in that moment, becomes one with the Force because he gains his vision back. He
Mm.
gains his vision back in that moment where he is saving them, and he gets that one last look at Hera, Sabine, Ezra, and the crew. And I'm thinking about it. And I haven't seen it in a while, and I plan on doing a Rebels rewatch very soon. But just thinking of that moment and seeing that image in my head of him looking at them and his eyes going back to normal Kanan, and we're able to see his vision be restored. To me, that's a like a nail in the coffin of being like, this guy went through the path of being a true Jedi, what it really means to be a real life, true to the core Jedi. It wasn't easy. He had to learn in very just unusual ways compared to other Jedi, right? He didn't have an order behind him. He didn't have,
Non-traditional ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't have a master to teach him. Like his master was killed in the middle of his training, right?
Mhm.
He didn't go through the trials or anything like that, and he learned on the fly. He learned as he was teaching someone else. It was never conventional. It was always in a weird way, but he went about it the right way, and he sacrificed himself, and he did it in such a way that he was able to gain trust and become one with the Force, which we, as many Jedi as we love, right? We love the Mace Windus and the Kit Fistos and the Qui-Gons and even Luke Skywalkers. But even those Jedi never truly became one with the Force.
Right.
Kanan is one of the few, and it even helps in not the entire scene of the Rise of Skywalker where all the Jedi come back is a little wonky sometimes because why are some of those Jedi included when others should have been included?
Right.
But Kanan is included in that for a reason. He's included alongside Yoda and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan because that's he's one with the Force. That's who he is. And so that moment is just is brilliant. And it's something that is very heartfelt, very emotional, but it's also very uplifting because the guy went through some incredible hardships to get there, and he was able to do what he needed to do to get there, and he successfully did it, and the show did it brilliantly. So Dave Filoni, again, just incredible.
And also the voice actor, Freddie, right?
Freddie Prinze Jr., yeah.
Yeah, man, great job. And if you listen to him talk Star Wars and the character, you can tell, he really, I mean, this was a character that he was able to help develop, evolve, and he immediately became like one of the more favorites as far as the whole entire Jedi, order goes. So
Agreed.
I agree with, man, the animations, man, they put on some heartfelt moments, dude. They really be pulling on your strings, I tell you.
Agreed. All right. So before we get to our next moments, I do want to cover Monkey Shoulder just real quick. Gio, have you ever heard of Monkey Shoulder?
Only through your show.
So Monkey Shoulder, it comes from a distillery in New York. So it's based upstate on the other side of the country for us. It's a Scotch. It's blended with multiple different Scotches into one. Gets this really, really cool flavor on this. The interesting thing here is the name, Monkey Shoulder. I know a lot of people think Monkey Shoulder, it's kind of a weird name for a whiskey. There's a reason behind that. Now, when you're malting whiskey and you're distilling it and you're doing all the things for the process of making whiskey, you usually churn it in a way, right? You're kind of spinning it, you're churning it, you're mixing it.
Sure.
And they use these big giant shovels to do that, especially back in the old days. And so much so that the workers would actually be getting some kind of tightness and soreness in their shoulders, and their shoulders would hang low like a monkey, hence the name monkey shoulder. So it's kind of a cool little story about how they came to the name, because it's a very unique name. It has a really cool logo, and I'll bring the bottle up. It's got the 3 monkeys right here, which is really, really cool. You can see this is the bottle, monkey shoulder, blended malt Scotch whiskey. And it tastes, honestly, it's shocking because it tastes very high end for a Scotch, but it is only a $30 bottle. It is only a $30 bottle, which is a big like thumbs up as far as price for Scotch goes, because some of them can get pretty expensive. I know a lot of good bourbons and Scotches get up there in money, especially in like a $100 range. But yeah, as it says back, and I'll read the back of the bottle here. It says, rooted in malt whiskey history and inspired by the malt men who still turn the malting barley by hand, Monkey Shoulder is blended in small batches of 3 fine Speyside single malts, then married to achieve a smoother, richer taste. It's not a fruity flavor. I'll tell you that. It's not fruity. It does have a little bit of a spike, a little bit of a spice to it. And so expect that going in. But honestly, for a Scotch, it's a great taste for its price point. I mean, $30 for this kind of taste is brilliant. And so I would always recommend Monkey Shoulder just because of the price. Because it is, I mean, $30 for a bottle of whiskey, first of all, is like your average price.
Right.
When you get like a high-end Scotch like this, because Scotch typically runs higher in price. That is 2 thumbs up, 1,000 times thumbs up if I could. So definitely on Monkey Shoulder.
Yeah, I like the description, man. Like they hand turn it. It's nice that they don't succumb to automation. That's good. Good on you.
Yeah, and just, I mean, you can picture that too. Like your shoulder's getting sore, and then your body just does this, right? And your arms are just kind of hanging there, and that totally just looks like a monkey shoulder.
Yeah, I like that. I didn't think about it like that. That's pretty cool.
All right, let's go ahead and get back to it. Gio, you're up next again. What is the next Star Wars moment you want to talk about?
All right, so this one is a well-beloved moment. Let's go back to Episode 1. Not really a well-beloved film. I mean, if you talk to Star Wars fandom and take a poll, but some incredible things in that movie. One of the more incredible things is the pod racing sequence. And, I mean, just the whole 15 minutes, was it 12, 15 minutes of the pod racing sequence is just some of the best stuff. I mean, honestly, like in any sci-fi movie on a grand scale. But the moment that I bring up, the one that always catches me, is when Anakin finally takes the lead and Sebulba tailgates him. And the sound design of Sebulba's pod racer, you're just like, oh my God, like take me back in time. Take me to an IMAX theater so I can experience that. Incredible. The sound design. Wow. I mean, it's just, that's the kind of stuff that, if I were running a film school and, on sound design, sound mixing, that would be one of the lectures. That moment right there, and just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars has always been known. I mean, they get nominated for Oscars, not just for score, but also just, sound mixing, sound design, that entire thing. And to your point, I mean, it's so funny when you mention that. I can hear it. Like I can just hear it in the back of my head, and it is scary. And obviously, Star Wars is different, right? Because especially when you're force sensitive, things don't scare you as often as they would here in our real life. If I was sitting in that pod racer, I'd be shitting bricks. Like that thing is sitting right in the back of your head, and he stays cool, calm, and collected, and he totally just is just Anakin in that moment. But yeah, the sound design, and for the entire sequence of the pod racing, all of the ships are, the way that they sound so different from each other, the way that they look and feel, and the way that when they scream by a corner, they all sound so different. And it just kudos to everybody involved in these movies with sound. It's incredible the way they're able to mix things and make things sound and come up with the ideas, first of all, is a big part of it. It's truly, yeah, I mean, I can get behind a moment like that for sure.
Hell yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go back to animation here because it's a moment that that I think about whenever we're talking about Rebels, whenever we're talking about Clone Wars, and this comes in the first season, or excuse me, this might be. I should have researched this, and someone in the chat can probably tell me. Bador or Max or someone, or Reef Tongue can probably tell me. It's the moment where Ahsoka finally figures out who Vader is. And she has that moment of clarity where she senses who he is through the Force. And it's, the camera's sitting on her, right? Yes. She's in the pilot ship of the Ghost, and her and Ezra are in the cockpit, and she has this moment of clarity of realizing who Vader is and what he has done in these years since she has seen him. And we obviously know through Clone Wars that their time apart wasn't as far as we thought it was. But that moment of clarity in realizing that, oh my God, the monstrous figure who is going around the galaxy, destroying people, places, just everything. That is my old master. That is my old brother. That is the one who has taught me everything in Star Wars. And I think I might have lost Gio again. I'm going to go ahead and bring him out just in case. So Rebels. Yes. And I see everybody in chat. Season 2. I thought it was season 2. It's near the opening of season 2. But that moment is incredible. It's fantastic. I really want to go watch it right now because I haven't seen it in a while. But that moment where they kind of have that connection, and it also reflects, right, because of the Clone Wars season 7, it reflects what we saw when Anakin and Ahsoka had passed by each other from I think it's the second arc in season 7. When she goes with the sisters and they fly past the cruisers and they can sense each other. It's very similar in beats, right? Obviously, we also know that it's similar to Vader and Luke in Return of the Jedi when they sense each other. But it's very similar because they have this connection. We've always known that Anakin and Ahsoka have this connection with each other. And no matter how far away they are, they can sense each other. No matter how close they are, their powers get closer together. And it's so funny because I can picture that scene where Ahsoka realizes and her eyes get massive. And she's like, oh my God, the horror that I just witnessed of my old master being Vader. And so it is a bit different, Reef Time. Go and explain to me. Go. I know it's not exact, but it is a little bit different. It's a scene that, and I always go back to animation. I love talking about Rebels and Clone Wars. I can talk about it all day long. But I've talked about multiple times that Ahsoka is one of my all-time favorite characters. She's sitting back there for a reason. Everything that they do with her is brilliant. In Rebels, Ahsoka and Kanan reach out to who it is. Yes, that's what it is. Thank you, Reefton. You are correct. It's similar in a way. They do reach out, and she senses that, and she kind of sees and feels what is going on with that character, and that character being Vader. That's going to transfer me into another moment. And I'm going to stick with animation just because I'm on the topic. I'm on the topic of Ahsoka and Anakin. And I'm going to go from Rebels to Clone Wars. And that is when Ahsoka leaves the Order in season 5, the final episodes of season 5. That's what I'm going to be talking about here for just a little moment while I wait to see if Gio comes back. This is one of the hardest things to watch in Star Wars. For me anyway, because I love the character of Anakin. I love the character of Ahsoka, and seeing them part ways the way that they did is just heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking because, and I've said this for a long time, and some people may not agree with me, but I've said I'm going to say at least well over a year now, that to me, Ahsoka represents what a real, true Jedi is. I know a lot of people argue Obi-Wan. I understand that. But if we look through canon, and whether it's live action or animation, there are moments where Obi-Wan is very much misguided, where he is very much clouded from his judgment. And to me, from what we've seen, and of course everyone has moments, from what we see, Ahsoka is so straightforward, clear-minded, and this is the moment that is almost like like it solidifies it. We had never ever once seen a Jedi leave the Order in canon, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I know it's happened elsewhere, but in canon, whether it's Clone Wars, Rebels, the movies, we have never seen a Jedi walk away from the Order. And if I'm corrected, then perfect. I want someone to tell me. But she literally said, "No, like the Jedi aren't who I thought they were. The teachings aren't who I thought they were. You know, we're being clouded. We're not supposed to be doing this. You know, this isn't the way we're supposed to be going about things as Jedi." And she had to tell not just them, but the one person she loved out of everyone, Anakin, her brother, her master, that no, I can't do that. That like I'm walking away. Like I'm not going to be a part of something that's not what it's supposed to be. Okay, so he is back. We have heard Dooku the left, but not witness. Yes, you are correct. It wasn't a book. You are correct. You are correct, Bedor. Okay. Hey, dude, it's all good.
I am so sorry, everybody.
Gio, you're fine, man.
Way to make a debut.
It allows me to rant a little bit and have conversations. It's totally okay. It happens. It's life in the digital age right now. But what I'm talking about at the moment is so I was talking about the moment that Ahsoka realized who Vader was.
Yes.
I went on that for a little bit. Then I kind of transferred into in Clone Wars season 5 when Ahsoka leaves the Jedi Order.
Walks away from. I had that on here. Yep.
And so let's talk about that a little bit because as I was just mentioning, and they had mentioned in the chat as well, the only other time that we've ever seen a Jedi leave physically was hearing that Dooku had walked away, right? And it was also in a book. I know that they're saying that in the chat right now is in a book. But we've never actually seen it happen on screen before. And it's the only time we've ever seen it happen. And it was under terrible circumstances because she was being framed. And essentially that they didn't believe her. After all that she had done, they didn't believe her. And she had to tell the one person that she loves the most in this world, the Jedi aren't who I thought they were. They're not. Mm-hmm. It's not what I want to be a part of. I'm walking away from this. And so just thoughts on Ahsoka, you know, taking the high ground, literally, and moving on from the Jedi Order.
Well, you know, I think those words really stuck with Anakin when Palpatine began manipulating him and telling him that, you know,
it plays into what we know. You're right. Yeah.
Yep. That little thing. And I'm sure Ahsoka didn't mean it that way. But again, that just speaks to how Palpatine is able to just manipulate and, you know, get people to, you know, go down these dark paths and do, you know, terrible things. But man, dude, like, so I caught up to Clone Wars right before Mandalorian start. You know, I was on the race. I did the Disney Plus 20 most essential episodes, and that was right there. Just seeing Ahsoka, like, man, just go through so much. You know, she was literally being like hunted down. You know, like as if she were a criminal. You know, without any sort of due process. You know, which doesn't feel like the Jedi way. And then that final shot of her just walking away.
It's so beautiful.
It's just
so,
wow. Like
so
who
good.
would have thought? Again, Star Wars animation giving us these characters that were just like, oh, okay, cool. But then they grow on you, and the storytelling just makes them so much more than what you thought, you know. And now we're in Mandalorian, looking forward to this newest episode and seeing her potentially
lose my shit.
She's going to be in the episode.
I'm gonna lose my shit on Friday. I'm gonna lose my shit on Friday.
Mm-hmm. But man, such an impactful moment, man. Again, pulling on your heartstrings, just like wow.
Well, and we've talked about for so long from the films that, you know, the Jedi were blinded, and the Jedi Order of the prequels were not what they felt like the true Jedi, right? They kind of were clouded by a lot of thoughts that were going around at that time. And Ahsoka saw through that. And I was saying while talking about this, that to me, out of all the Jedi we've seen, there's two names, and it was mentioned in the chat already because I 100% agree with this. But to me, Ahsoka represents what a real, true Jedi should be, personally, right? There's moments where she misguides herself a little bit, or she makes the wrong decision, which everybody does.
It's a part of learning.
She's never been clouded by her judgment. She's never let something kind of overrule her, if you will. She's always taken the high ground. Like, and that's even more so in the Clone Wars season 7 when, Rex is telling her, like, look, these are my brothers, but they're not going to let you off the ship. They're here to kill you. And she goes, that's fine. They're great soldiers. They're great soldiers, but I'm not going to be the one to kill them.
Yeah.
Like, that to me screams, that's a Jedi. Like, that is a pure, straightforward, as real as you can get Jedi. And I know the argument, some people say Obi-Wan. The other one for me is Qui-Gon. He, to me, is also very pure in Jedi. But, it's a moment that is an all-timer Star Wars moment. If you watch the Clone Wars and you get the feel of that show, that is an all-time Star Wars moment, whether it's animation or live action.
Man, now that I think about it, the Jedi in the prequels and leading up to Episode 4, man, they really dropped the ball. I mean, they're like the Atlanta Falcons. They had a huge lead. They had all this stuff under control, and they just lose it all. Like, wow.
Yep.
My turn?
It is your turn.
All right. Well, let's go back again to everyone's favorite, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Okay, so we know that some of the best lightsaber fighting in all of the saga, particularly when Darth Maul fights Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. But a moment that really stands out to me is in between those fights, specifically when Obi-Wan watches his master die, and then right before the shields, go away, he's just looking at Darth Maul like, ooh, I'm about to whoop your ass. And it just, that moment right there, right before the shields open, you see Obi-Wan like he obviously doesn't, but he's about to go down a path, and he's going to fight with anger, and for me, it's just like, man, obviously we know that their solo fight is one of the best. I mean, high, fast paced lightsaber duel. But that moment right before the shields go down and he's just looking, you're just like, oh man, here we go.
Yeah, we kind of see a shift for the character, right? This was the moment that Qui-Gon died. It kind of changed everything. It changed everything, and a lot of people have had these conversations for a long time. And I know Dave Filoni had also done it last year on Disney's Gallery series of the Mando.
Oh, he broke it down incredibly,
and that's something that we can talk about, because obviously we know at this point that Obi-Wan is not set to be a master. He still very much has a lot to learn. He's very young. And he was never originally intended to be Anakin's master. That wasn't what was supposed to happen.
Right.
It was always supposed to be Qui-Gon. And man, what Star Wars would look like if Qui-Gon had actually lived and trained Anakin. That's obviously something we can always just theorize and hypothetically talk about. But it changed Star Wars for two reasons. One, the path of Anakin. Right, we know what happened to Anakin because of that reason, and I'll just send you straight to the Disney Gallery series or the clip of Dave Filoni talking about it. It's the perfect example of it. But the change in Obi-Wan in that moment was very different, right? Because he had been tasked with now changing the way he is as a Jedi to focus on training what Qui-Gon thought was what Qui-Gon thought was the chosen one, but was also the chosen one of the prophecy. There's multiple chosen ones, but chosen one of this prophecy.
Right.
He had to change his viewpoint, his outlook on being a Jedi, how to be a Jedi, because he is now in charge of this kid who has the Force within him. And that changed Obi-Wan's path as a Jedi. And still, he ends up as one of the greatest Jedi, if not the greatest Jedi of all time. And that's fine. Like, I will never argue with someone who says that. But it's interesting because in that moment, there's a shift in anger, in emotions that you see in him. And he's not this pure guy that we thought he was in the in the original trilogy. it adds layers to the character that we didn't expect to see from
Yeah.
someone like Obi-Wan, who is as popular as we know.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's a moment that has an impact on the entire franchise. It might be the most critical moment of the entire franchise because the entire franchise focuses on the Skywalkers, and the first being Anakin, and he's kind of, he sets the path for everyone going forward. And a lot of that has to do with Obi-Wan. A lot of that has to do with Qui-Gon. And so, if you don't like the Phantom Menace, that's fine, but you have to like this moment because it pretty much set up Star Wars for what it is, right? It's not the first movie to come out, but it's the basis for everything that we know. And a lot of that is Qui-Gon dying, Obi-Wan realizing that, oh my God, my life has changed forever. I
Yeah.
have to make a promise to my master right now. He's asking me to do this, and I have to live by this. And that's a big deal.
It reminds me of a quote that Gary Oldman said, and I believe it was The Professional, when he goes, "The calm, quiet moments before the storm."
Yeah.
And it's just, again, it's a moment. It's not as flashy, but what Ewan McGregor is able to, show through his incredible acting, man, ooh.
Well, and
Anyway.
like you mentioned, the way that they fight, you can sense anger. You can sense the
Oh yeah,
anger with the way he's fighting. It's like you had mentioned, it's very quick and fast paced, but it's also aggressive. It's very, very aggressive.
yeah, agreed. One of the best for sure.
All right, I'm going to shift gears, and I've talked a lot about animation, and so I'm gonna go to the sequel trilogy because I don't believe we have talked about the sequel trilogy just yet. And I'm gonna go to the Force Awakens. Oh, we talked about the Force Awakens trailer. You're right. We talked about the first Force Awakens trailer, but I'm gonna go to the Force Awakens as well. And it's a moment that gives me chills every single time I watch it. I remember watching it in theaters and being absolutely blown away by this moment, and that is the moment Rey catches the lightsaber.
Oh
When
yeah.
she force pulls the lightsaber to her
Mhm.
in the snow
Yep.
on Starkiller Base past Kylo Ren, and then we get into that incredible fight between the two of them, and Rey kind of, she gets a feeling for what this is, and she realizes what the Force is and everything. But I'm specifically talking about the moment that she force pulls that saber to her,
Mhm.
and then the entire world of Star Wars is changed forever. Right? At this point, Rey was a scavenger. We hadn't seen much from her. We had seen her play with Kylo's head, and when he's inside of her head, that's fine. It's tidbits, but now we get the sense of how powerful she actually is. She's
Mhm.
force pulling stuff past a very well trained character in Kylo Ren to set up this battle between the two of them,
Right.
and she has thrusted into this world that she never knew existed. It's very similar to Luke, different paths, but very similar to Luke. How Luke was kind of thrown into it with Obi-Wan. Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen died, and he ended up going on this adventure. Rey ends up on Starkiller Base because she's this popular girl, and Finn gets attacked. She's knocked out, and then she's like, "Hey, well, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? What do I do? I beat Kylo Ren to the lightsaber," and it changes Star Wars forever. And it's such a great, powerful moment because this character who was given nothing in life, right? She was shipped off. She was handed off. She was pretty
Yep.
much a slave her entire life. Um, she is now given the chance to make something better of herself, to do something good in life, which is what she's been looking for her entire life. She's been looking for something bigger. She's been looking to the stars her entire life, and now she is officially there. And so that I remember watching that, and I remember us specifically talking about that moment on our 2-hour Force Awakens review on Apocalypse,
Yep.
because I know Jacob loves this moment just as much as I do. But I mean, just what a powerful a moment from a character who is now one of the most famous characters in Star Wars, and Daisy really crushed it too. But I mean, just force pulling. I mean, so good.
It's exactly what the subtitle of episode 7 is. The Force awakens. The Force has awakened in her, and it's something you didn't see coming. I mean, you're wondering, why is okay, Kylo Ren, you're powerful. You just took a blaster to the core, and are you struggling here? Well, wait, no, there's somebody else, and it's Rey, I guess Skywalker, and she is awakened, and ends up embarrassing Kylo Ren. So yeah, dude, one of the more like wow moments, like you're in a theater and you're just like, oh my god, what just happened?
Yeah. I agree with you. All right, Gio. We're gonna run through some rapid fire here at the end of the show. I know we got big lists each, so we're gonna run through a couple. We can talk about them quickly, and then we'll get to your whiskey recommendation for me. So why don't you go and start us off with some that you have on your list?
Okay, real quick. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, my favorite Star Wars movie. Anakin's march to the Jedi Temple with the Clone Wars behind him.
I just watched this last week, and I forgot how long the scene was. It's a long sequence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it starts off, from a far, point of view. Then it goes from up top.
Yeah,
and then you just see Anakin like. There's obviously hate. He's going down the dark side, the path of the dark side. But for me, I kind of see a little bit of. I kind of don't want to do this, but I have to because I'm told it's the one way to save Padme. I think there's just that little bit of just sorrow in his eyes that is just like, he's a little part of him is conflicted, like, but he just goes through with it, and it's just seeing the clones right behind him. They're marching. I mean, again, how did the Jedi not sense that? I mean, there's like literally 100 of them in there. Not one person sensed it, but whew, man, chilling.
You got any more? You got any more?
Oh yeah. Am I just gonna?
Let's run through them at the end here. We'll just run through them.
Oh, okay. I got the AT walk on Hoth and Empire Strikes Back.
Yep.
Again, the rebels, the Rebel Alliance, they're coming off a high. They're like, we could take these guys, and then they look off and they're like, what the hell is that? And it's a whole bunch of ATs and walkers, and again, just like incredible moment, especially as a kid. I'm like 6 years old watching that. I got Darth Vader Unleashed in Rogue One.
I have that on my list too.
All I will say is the moment the lightsaber comes out in the dark hallway.
That moment's in the thumbnail, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh God. Wow. Like
that is like that is truly like a moment. That's a really good definition of a moment because it's not long at all. It's very quick.
Yes, sir. I got Luke Skywalker looking onto the horizon and A New Hope. Binary Sunset, I think they call it.
Binary Sunset. Yep.
No dialogue, straight music.
The music. Music.
Empire Strikes Back. Very dark film, but there are moments of levity and fun. And one of those is when C-3PO interrupts Han Solo, who finally got to kiss Leia.
Oh, yes.
And Han Solo turns around, he's just like, thank you very much. Like, again, small funny moment in an otherwise pretty dark movie. And then going back to Revenge of the Sith, favorite one, Anakin Sith Eyes, when he turns around after slaughtering everybody at Mustafar.
That's really good.
You see that shot of his
really
eyes.
Good.
Yeah. And when Yoda enters Palpatine's office and just swats like a fly the
guards
and just
get out of here, peasants.
Again, just so many great moments in that movie. Love Revenge of the Sith. Love it.
Agreed. I'm gonna start it off with the Clone Wars, and that is near the end of season 7 finales, final episodes. Order 66 is happening. All the stuff with Ahsoka and Rex, that stuff going up against the clones. Also, the very final shot of both Ahsoka and Vader in that series. Ahsoka looking over the clone trooper helmets and Vader picking up Ahsoka's lightsaber. Two incredible moments in that series. I will also go to Revenge of the Sith, and that is the moment that Obi-Wan has cut off Anakin's limbs and is doing that dialogue sequence with Anakin. You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you. You were supposed to be the chosen one, etc., etc. a very, very powerful moment, something that
Yep.
will always live with me. And just, it's so, so critical to the franchise. I'll go to Rogue One. And that is the moment Cassian and Jin are accepting their fate on the beach of Scarif.
Yeah.
And they hug each other, and they accept what's happening. Just another powerful moment. And Cassian telling her, like, your dad would be proud of you. Like, you did what you needed to do. It's not just a good moment inside the movie, but it's extremely critical to the franchise.
Oh yeah.
Right? The rebellion would not be getting these plans if it wasn't for Jin. Jin solely did that with the help of Cassian and crew. And that moment of them realizing, I accept my fate, I did what I needed to do, and here we go. Great moment, very emotional moment as well. I will go to Solo for my other one, and that is the first time that we see Han in the cockpit and flying the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
The Kessel Run, absolutely brilliant, incredible, fun, adventurous, and just what a great performance from Al Nyrek as well. You have Chewie as the co-pilot, which is incredible as well. And they're just wrecking shop. There's wrecking shop, which is what we expect to see from them.
Alden will be back, by the way.
Yes, I hope so. I hope so.
He will be back.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'll go to The Empire Strikes Back, and that is I Love You, I Know, at the end of the movie. As Han is going up into Carbonite, we get the first time that we hear this, and it's one of the most powerful love scenes to ever be put on film.
Yeah.
And it's on shirts and bracelets and necklaces all over the place.
Such a Han Solo line too.
It but it's so brilliant. It's
yes.
So brilliant.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Good. Mm-hmm. I'll go to Return of the Jedi, and that is the elevator scene between Luke and Vader as they're going up to see Palpatine. And as they're going up to Shuttle Tydirium to then fly to Palpatine is what I meant. And just when Vader's talking about his construction of his new lightsaber, and Luke is trying to turn him to the good side, eventually doing so a little bit later on. And then for my final one, I will talk about The Last Jedi, and that is Luke force projecting himself across the galaxy to fight Kylo Ren on Crate, his nephew, on the sand dunes, or not the sand dunes, the salt dunes of Crate. Not so much the fight between them, but when it finally revealed that Luke isn't actually there, and we see him, in the Force, floating as he's force projecting himself, and then becoming one with the Force. Very powerful moment, because to me, Luke Skywalker is an all-time favorite character. He's one of the best Star Wars characters to ever live, and that moment for me maybe solidified that he's the most powerful Jedi to ever live. Because when have we ever seen that?
Right.
That is a very, very big deal for someone to force project themselves across the galaxy and do that for that long period of time. So yeah, those are mine.
And very, very poetic, if I might say. Just how, like I just said, him looking off to the binary sunset in A New Hope.
That's right, the two suns.
Him looking off again.
Yeah.
It's just pretty damn well executed. All right, Ryan Johnson. All right,
yeah, and I'm on record saying that I don't like the fact that Luke died, but I will say that it's a really great ending for him.
I don't even think Mark Hamill liked the way that Luke died.
Yeah,
but
that's a conversation for another day.
Sure.
Well, all right. To finish off the show, Gio's got a recommendation for me. Gio, why don't you tell me what I'm going to be drinking here soon?
You should be drinking what I'm drinking, and that is Johnny Walker Green Label blended malt Scotch whiskey. Now, I don't like whiskeys where the smokiness and the barrel taste is just too much.
Oh, that's
like
the best.
smooth.
That's the best.
No, I am not too much of a fan of it. I like smooth, and this little baby right here is smooth as a motherfucker. It is. It is the little brother to Blue Label, but Green Label at $70, $80. Man, dude, it's the perfect sipper, man. After a long work week, you just want to sit back, throw on Mandalorian, and have something to sip on, man. This is the grown man, the gentleman's drink. So Green Label, I highly recommend it. You must try.
Yeah, I have I have just the basic Johnny Walker Scotch in my freezer, but it's the Game of Thrones edition, so it's the White Walker
Oh,
edition.
the White Walker. Yeah.
Yeah, the White Walker edition. I'll have to get the green because I've never had it, and I'm a big fan of Scotch. Scotch, out of all the whiskeys, is my favorite. So um, I will definitely be trying that. I do want to get to this comment real quick. This is from Adore, and she says, "I don't mind that he died. I wanted to see his end and see him one with the Force rather than being left out there, and we don't know what happens after." Yeah, I agree. I think that he should have died. I just wanted to see him die in Rise of Skywalker. That's the only thing.
I mean, I don't mind it as much because I wasn't really a big fan of the way Han Solo died. I thought that could have been done better.
I don't know. I mean, his son killed him.
Yeah, but you totally saw it coming, and it was just
Doesn't matter. It still hurts you.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe, but I thought Luke's was not bad.
No, and like I said, I think the his end was fitting. I think it was a great end. I think I think the way he died was really good because he became one with the Force. He drifted off just as Obi-Wan did in A New Hope. I'm just bitter because we didn't see a lot of him, which is why I'm a little bitter about it. Just because I wanted to see the Luke Skywalker that we knew after coming back and all that stuff. So that's the only reason why. But I do think that the way that it ended for him, the way that he died, was very powerful. And like he said in the movie, the rebellion was reborn that day, and he was a big part of that.
Well, hey, imagine being the biggest Kit Fisto fan and 2005 going into the movie. You're like, okay, noble death. Here we go, Kit Fisto. And him and 3 others get killed. Like
such a terrible ending for them.
Nothing.
Terrible ending.
Oh man, Kit Fisto deserved better. Man.
Yeah. Yeah, and just as Reefton says, it does definitely make sense from a storytelling standpoint. I agree with you. I just think that there probably could have been a little bit more of a plan. Okay, well, Gio, again, man, I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me. This is awesome. This was fun. I'll definitely have you back in the future and more fun topics from your head. So thank you so much for joining me on the Whiskey Jedi, man.
Thank you again for having me. Again, what you're doing here is great. I'm gonna continue watching, man. Keep it up. You're doing great things. I love the Whiskey Jedi, the whole idea of it. Keep it up, man. Good stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Before we go, Gio, where can everybody find you online?
I am on Twitter at DC_enthusiast. You guys can follow me on there. Feel free to debate with me, DC stuff, Snyder stuff, whatever you want to do. I enjoy the conversation. I'm a fan of all comic book movies, but DC enthusiast at heart. He's
the biggest DC guy that I know. If you guys have questions or comments on DC stuff, he is 100% the one to talk to. So get back to that DC podcast, bud. Get back to that DC podcast. So
yes, sir.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Qui-Gon Jake 2 N's because someone else took it before I did. We're both on Apocalypse Movies Tuesdays and Thursdays. 7:30 p.m. Pacific. We just did a trivia last night, which was really fun. Gio actually won the trivia match last night. We're also doing stuff like fantasy drafts and watch-alongs and stuff like that, talking all kinds of movies on that channel. I'm also a part of A Certain Point of View for Schmodown, which most of you in the chat already know. And then this show is going to be living here. At the moment, it's usually about every week, but I'm probably going to get to about every 2 weeks here with the holidays coming up. I'll be doing a bunch of other stuff. We do a Mandalorian review show on Apocalypse and another other stuff. So I have plenty of time to talk Star Wars elsewhere. But for now, Gio, thank you so much for hanging out with me. This is the Whiskey Jedi. Make sure you guys are recommending whiskey. Make sure you guys are recommending topics. And thank you so much for joining us. So until then, we'll see you guys next time. May the Force be with you.